Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Canberra Football Show. Matt Nicoletti. Joining me today is Michael Georgeski. Michael, how's it going today? And welcome back. It's been a while. You've had your girlfriend's birthday last week, so didn't have you on the show.
Yeah, I know. Gutted to miss out, but it was for a good reason, of course. But I'm happy to be back. Some good action as always over the course of the weekend, Matt, and ready to get into it with you. So let's do it. So first up, we in the NPL, we have O'Connor Knights, who picked up a huge victory, Matt, over Belconnen United at home. It was a 1-0 win, a goal from Ayul in the 81st minute for the hosts. Like I said, Matt, a huge win for the Knights, as it puts them 7 points clear in fourth spot on the ladder, and it puts an end to the sort of recent slumps, that they've sort of endured over the last sort of month or so. And I think on the flip side of that, it was a huge chance for Belconnen to get themselves closer to the top four. But now they find themselves 9 points off and they sit obviously in seventh place. So it sort of just goes to show just how fine the margins are for error at this point of the season. And whilst for Belconnen, it's a dampening result, on the flip side of that, for O'Connor, it's a huge result for them as it sort of helps them solidify their place in the top four. And the goal that they were able to produce in the 81st minute, Matt, from Ayul, I mean, it could be one of the biggest goals of their season to date. And it helps stake their claim for obviously finals football. And I know that you would have seen it, but it was a great through ball that sort of just sliced right through the Belconnen United backline. Ayul sort of goes around the keeper and puts it in sort of rather quickly. He had to do all that sort of sharply and with quick feet. It was a great finish nevertheless. And, just a great goal, an important moment for them to grab that goal and the 3 points as well. Matt, it's looking more and more likely that Belco aren't going to feature in this final series after this result in particular. It's hard to see sort of if they'll be able to sort of make back up those 9 points to see if they can get themselves in and around that top four. But you never know what can happen with these last remaining matches of the 2022 campaign. And I think it's important for O'Connor to just keep pushing forward after a huge result like this. And like I mentioned at the top, it sort of gets them out of the recent struggles that they've sort of had. When you look at the sort of recent games that they've played and results haven't really gone their way. And I think I'd also like to mention, O'Connor's Liam Walsh reached his century of NPL games in this matchup as well. So what an occasion to mark your 100th game with an important win like that.
Indeed, huge victory for the O'Connor Knights. And like you said, that's a huge point gap for them to have over Canberra Olympic. So they put themselves in good stead, give them a bit of bit of cushion just in case a result doesn't go their way. In the next couple of weeks, we go to another big game out at Cooma, which Russ and I ended up commentating on. It actually wasn't that cold, surprisingly. It wasn't. Beautiful. It was colder when we went in April last year than it was in end of July this year. So I guess that says something. But Tigers return their spiritual home of Cooma, where they've only played once this season. And this one was a draw in the second league installment, of course, for the Battle of the Big Cats, as Russ likes to call it. Tigers started defensively solid, mostly because the last couple of games that Tigers have played, they've conceded relatively early in a lot of their games recently. So you could tell how defensively solid they were. Everyone, dropped back, worked well behind the ball. They were happy to give Monaro a bit of the ball in the opening half, and they just countered with their pace, and they were absolutely lethal in the pace. You were seeing some of the best of Tigers. We all know they haven't been able to click completely this season, and when we have seen it, we've seen them use their pace to good, very well. And they did open the scoring through Tom Kirklitz as after a Josh Galevsky shot was parried to the side. The Canberra Croatia from the Canberra Croatia keeper Kirklicks was able to gain the rebound and bury it. Arguably, Tigers looked the stronger of the two, I thought, in the first half. Defensively and attacking wise, they seemed to have the better of the opportunities in that opening half. Monaro, on the other hand, were missing quite a few starters in this one, including Bailey, Kishta, Thurtell, Andre Carl, just to name a few. They didn't seem to be clicking in the first half. They had probably more of the ball, but Tigers just hit them on the counter, hit them with pace, and they weren't able to break the defensive line of Tigers too much. I can't remember too many chances in the first half anyway. The second half, though, they came out a lot stronger. They came out on the attack. They moved the ball quicker. They created more chances. They created more chances than Tigers in the second half, and they equalized through Seb Woods, who came on off the bench at half time after Nikos Kalfas sort of dragged it or backhilled it to Woods, who struck it low and put it into the bottom left-hand corner. It was an absolute bullet of a goal from the substitute Seb Woods, like we said, who came on at half time, so immediately making an impact. Overall, considering the two halves, draw was probably a fair result. Like I said, Tigers probably had the better of the first half. Monaro probably had the better of the second half. So probably a fair result all around.
Yeah, most definitely, Matt. I think in terms of that, a lot more sort of positive signs there for Tigers in terms of the performance as well, especially when you take into account, the sort of form that Monaro has been on. Obviously, a top four side playing very, very well. But we'll move on now to our next matchup, which was Canberra, Croatia, Matt, against West Canberra Wanderers. 4-2 to Canberra, Croatia in this one. Two goals from Dominici, one of those from the penalty spot in the second half. Pilkington and Taneski scoring as well. And for West Canberra, Bailey managed to get a 4-minute brace in the second half there to reduce the deficit. So Canberra, Croatia, they maintain their spot at the top of the table. We've been saying that for quite a while now, haven't we, Matt? And, it came with an entertaining victory over, a recently resurgent West Canberra Wanderers side, I'd say. And as they so often do, Canberra, Croatia, they stamp their authority early in the match. They score early, courtesy of, Dominici. And, it's always very hard for teams against Canberra, Croatia to get themselves sort of back, not only into the match, but go on and win once they've sort of established an early lead. Like we've seen it so many times over the years. And, they just played really, really good football. They continue to dominate, the first half after going up in that early stages of the first half through Dominici, like I mentioned. And then, they added a second, not so long after that, around about midway through the first half there, through Pilkington. And then, they got themselves in a good position being 3-0 up, obviously, when Taneski managed to find the back of the net as well. And it was 3-0 at the break, but like I said at the top, Matt, West Canberra, they did manage to, come out a lot better in the second 45 minutes. I think that would have been a strong message at halftime that things probably weren't good enough from them in the first 45 and that they needed to improve that. And I think they definitely did. Even though Canberra, Croatia managed to extend their lead out to 4-0, Bailey manages to get 2 goals there in sort of the latter stages of the second half there. So you maybe ask yourself, if those goals had come a bit earlier in the second half, it would have given them obviously a bit more time to see if they could pull off a miraculous sort of draw after going 4-0 down, but it just wasn't the case. And, just in like the previous match with O'Connor and Liam Walsh's 100 games, Matt, we had Canberra, Croatia's Daniel Subasic reach 100 NPL matches in this game as well. So another congratulatory, salute to another player marking their 100th game this weekend.
Indeed, congratulations to him, and Canberra, Croatia still remain, of course, at the top of the table. Next up was one hell of a game. Gungahlin United 4, Canberra Olympic 3. Roberts Mickle Sam Habtemarian and Abbott with the goals for Gungahlin United, and Flores Yahegi and Rowan Jones with the goals for Olympic. The way I'm going to go over it isn't the order of play. I'm just going to go what Olympic did and what Gungahlin did, because quite a bit in this matchup. Gungahlin opened the scoring through Brindabella Madrid, who got in the end of a nice ball from Leon Mickle across the goal. Brindabella Madrid also had another chance in a time where Olympic probably had more chances in the first half. Leon Mickle was the one to take back the lead for his side as they broke on the counter. Gianpaolo got a foot on it to Mickle, who thundered a bullet across goal in the right corner. Gagalin's last two goals came from 3-2 down near the end of the game, where Sam Habtemarian scored their third after Jeremy Habtemarian's shot was saved by Seb Yoogali, then ricocheted from the defenders and fell to Sam as he buried it. Mishko Naumoski passed it off to Nico Abbott for his first goal in the Gunners' stripes to seal the win against Olympic. Olympic's equaliser, though, started through David McCarron, who won the ball back, I believe, and laid it off to Simon Rowan Jones, who was able to cross it to Luca Flores, who put it in for the finish. Olympic also had other great chances in the first half, with Rowan Jones hitting the crossbar. Flores came off, which looked like he pulled up with some hammy issues. Not completely confirmed. Hopefully it was just a spur of the moment hammy issues and nothing serious. McCarron also had two good chances. One was saved from Quinn through a header. Melik also had a chance saved where it was another header, which was well saved by Quinn. So both the goalkeepers getting quite a bit of action in this half. Like I said, Olympic were threatening Gungahlin from both the wings and the center in the first half, creating space very quickly. Olympic started the second half pretty strongly after a long ball from Seb Yoogali came off a Gungahlin defender to the feet of Isos Rahegi, who came on in the second half and buried it to put his side level 3 minutes in. Simon Rowan Jones made it 3-2 and put them in the lead after the corner, from the corner of the box as he chipped Jacob Quinn. So much there in that matchup. It was an absolutely full-on matchup. Of course, for Olympic, though, that loss means they are 7 points behind the O'Connor Knights, and they're actually behind Tigers, if I'm not mistaken, on goal difference. So they are technically in 6th place. So now there is a bit of a gap opening up between 4th and 5th/6th. In terms of Gungahlin United, though, they remain in 2nd place, 3 points behind Canberra, Croatia, which will make that one hell of a matchup.
Matt, and to round off our NPL discussion for this week, the NPL round 15 fixtures. So we start things off with West Canberra Wanderers playing host to O'Connor Knights, Saturday, 30th of July, 2:15 p.m. at Melrose Synthetic. Followed that by Tigers FC at home against Gungahlin United. That should be a good match. Matt, Saturday, 30th of July, 3 p.m. at AIS Grassfield 2. And then we've got Canberra Olympic up against Canberra, Croatia. We know how big of a game that one is in Canberra football. That one also Saturday, 30th of July, 3 p.m. at O'Connor Enclosed. And lastly, out to Queanbeyan for Monaro Panthers up against Belconnen United, Saturday, 30th of July at 5:45 p.m. So the later kickoff that we've been accustomed to when Monaro play at home.
NPLW segment for the show. We started things off on the Saturday with Belconnen United 3-0 victory over West Canberra Wanderers. Belco opened the scoring after pretty early after the Wanderers defense tried to pass the ball out from the back in the line of Riley Ewan, who didn't waste her opportunity and buried it in the back of the net. Ewan also pounced for her brace off a defensive scramble from a corner to make it 2. Their third came after Kira Bobbin headed it to Burridge off a corner kick, who was able to put it in the corner. Belco thought they'd gone 4-0 up on the verge of halftime after Riley Ewan put a shot around the keeper. However, it ended up as a red as the young striker ended up colliding as she hit that ball with the keeper. Looking at it from the highlights as I watched it over and over, probably a little harsh in hindsight, considering obviously her intent was to go for the ball and she ended up connecting with the ball as well. But the ref, I guess, is in a better position of that, and that was the decision. So it was a red card instead of a goal. However, Belco, considering they had a whole half down to 10 men, still braced through it and didn't end up conceding in that second half. West Canberra, on the other hand, like I said, despite having the one-person advantage in the second half, weren't able to come back into the matchup. They haven't conceded too many goals, from what I've been told, from set pieces or corners this season, and they conceded 2 here. Unfortunately for them, this is their 6th game in a row where they haven't been able to get a win. The last 3 matches have been losses, and the last 3 before that were draws. So this sort of proves once again how important their great start to the season was, because despite this not great run of form, they're still 9 points ahead in 4th place over Gungahlin United. So they still have, so it's not all doom and gloom. They still have a decent cushion there, and they do, of course, versus Gungahlin United this weekend. So they have the possibility to extend that further. So despite things not going their way today or over the last couple of weeks, their great form at the start of the season has still put them in good stead. Who do we have next up, Michael?
Yeah, next up we have Tuggeranong United, Matt, who managed to get a win over Wagga City Wanderers 2-0. So a win and a clean sheet for Tuggeranong, something that I'm sure they would have been very, very thrilled about. You know, they opened the scoring just after the half-hour mark through Sophie Burns, as she used her pace to outrun the Wanderers defenders to get on the end of the ball over the top. And, you know, she calmly placed it past the goalkeeper there. And, you know, and then the second goal came in the second half in the 73rd minute, courtesy of Zoe Terry. She doubled the lead and secured the win with a bullet from just outside the box there. So another good performance, Matt, from Tuggies as they, you know, continue to build on these good results, and, you know, and they had some other, you know, good chances in this one as well to extend that lead out to 2-0, but that just wasn't the case. But nevertheless, they still got the victory in the end. And like we mentioned, it's a huge victory for Tuggeranong United as it places them, you know, 4 points above Wagga in 7th, and it gives them the chance to actually close the gap on CUA in their catch-up match with them. So that'll be a huge match for Tuggeranong United to try and level their points tally with CUA in that instance. You know, it's tough for Wagga, you know, especially because they have shown glimpses over the past few weeks and even before that they can put it together when they've got a healthy squad and when they've got their players available, Matt. Like we've talked about it over the last, you know, numerous episodes. They've picked up some good results here and there. They're still managing to put things together, and, you know, they've just got to keep on going. You know, there's only a short portion left of the second half of this season, and they just have to do everything that they can to, you know, finish off the season strong. They'll be disappointed with a result like this because obviously if they had won, it would have helped them get closer to Tuggeranong. It would have actually put them above Tuggeranong in the standings if they were able to get a win in this match, but that wasn't the case. So for Tuggeranong, it's a great result. Again, another victory for Tuggeranong. This is definitely been their best season in NPLW in a very long time. And I just hope, you know, they get to continue in that vein for years to come. And for Wagga, it'll be the same. I think when you look at Tuggeranong and Wagga, those are two sides that are developing still with a lot of young players. And, you know, who knows, in the next sort of 2-3 years, they'll be very good sides. So, you know, they've got plenty of players. Hopefully, you know, plenty of players to sort of develop from the younger age groups coming through. So, Tuggeranong, it's a great position Matt, for them. I feel, I just mentioned the fact that we've been so used to seeing them on the root of the table, on the bottom of the table for many years, but they've managed to really change things around under Paulo Romero. And this season in particular, like I said, it's probably been their best season in a long, long time. So credit to Tuggeranong United.
And yeah, well done to them. It was a win that was coming. The last couple of games I've seen them anyway, they've created lots of chances. They've been in a decent amount of matches that they weren't able to get the result in. They were in it till a certain moment of the match or near the end. So this win has been coming for a while. And like you said, they have the opportunity in their catch-up match against CUA to go level with them. They wouldn't be ahead on goal difference. They would be behind on goal difference most likely, as they're decently behind them in that regard. But to get level, it puts them, into their goals of trying to make it further up the ladder. So well done to them. Next up is Canberra Olympic, 5-1 winners over CUA. Jalocka, Ryan, and Sykes' hat-trick were the goals, and Reith Mueller was the goal for CUA. Here's how the goals happened. Jalocka and Vanessa Ryan scored in the first half. Jalocka was a tap-in from a defensive scramble to open the scoring. Ryan was a pinpoint header to put them in the lead heading into half-time. That's a couple of headers for her this season. Canberra Olympic found their scoring groove more so, though, in the second half, as they scored 3 goals in 13 minutes. Michaela Thornton was brought down in the box, which resulted in a penalty, and Ash Sykes finished it from the spot kick, which began her hat-trick. If I'm not mistaken, this was also the match that Michaela Thornton made her return in after injury. That has kept her out for a bit. Either if it was this one, it was if it wasn't this one, it was last week. It's definitely been very recent. Her second, and when I mean her, I mean Ash Sykes. Her second was converted from a defensive scramble off a free kick into the box, and her third was a classic Ashley Sykes goal, running around a defender, breaking away with pace, and burying it in the goal. Olympic, very good victory for Olympic, and as always, as we always mention, very important, as they need to keep pace with Croatia. They are still 4 points off Canberra, Croatia, though, but they are also 6 points ahead of Belco, who are in third. Bessie Reith-Mueller was the one who scored for CUA, as she pounced on a defensive miscommunication between Katrina Peric and Janet King to equalise at that time for her side in the 28th minute. Despite looking like they would go into the halftime level, they conceded just before half-time, which was Vanessa Ryan's goal. This result for the Academy means they are still in 6th place, 1 point behind Gungahlin and only 3 ahead of Tuggies. And as you mentioned before, Michael, that one catch-up match against the Tuggies makes it even more important, considering the positions of both sides. Who do we have next up?
Yeah, next up and last match for our NPLW action is Canberra, Croatia, Matt. 6-0 winners over Gungahlin United at Deakin Stadium there. Another milestone that was reached. Obviously, the ones that we had previously mentioned were in NPL, but this time a milestone in NPLW for Grace Gill, who reached 150 NPLW matches. So congratulations to her. That's an amazing achievement, and a great way for Canberra, Croatia to celebrate her milestone with 6 goals and a clean sheet to go along with it. And you could sense that the hosts were in the mood early. When Barrack put them ahead, and you knew from that moment on they were just going to be so hard to stop. And that's why you have to do as best as you can when you come up against Canberra, Croatia, to really sort of shut them out that first sort of 10-20 minutes to really give yourself a chance. Because if you concede in that time period, it's just going to be very difficult for you to stop the on-rushing pressure that they display. And I want to make mention of 2 of the goals that sort of caught our eye. The first being Bissett, who, she produced a nice shot on the edge of the area there. It's one of those really nice goals that you see from outside the box where it's a shot and it sort of hits the crossbar, bounces and goes back up into the roof of the net. So a very satisfying strike there from her. And I'd say the sixth goal, the last one from Seton, the sort of the build up play in that is as well, with the sort of, the flick in Seton's path to really let her sort of get that left foot across goal into the top corner. I think they were two great strikes from outside the box. And I think it really just goes to show how good Canberra Croatia are and how good they've been all season. And that's why they're the favourites to, win the title this season.
Right, next, let's go through the fixtures for round 15, shall we? But we start off with Belconnen United, Tuggeranong United, Saturday, July 30th, 3 p.m. at McKellar Park. Wagga City Wanderers versus Canberra Olympics, Sunday, July 31st at 2:30 p.m. at Gissing Oval. Here's the big one in terms of places. Gungahlin United against West Canberra Wanderers, Sunday, July 31st, 3 p.m. at Gungahlin. In close, of course, Gungahlin United 9 points off the Wanderers. The Wanderers looking to extend that lead, and you would think if Gungahlin are going to make a late comeback and surge for the top four, this will be a pivotal result, you feel, in that race, or at least one of the pivotal matches. And last up, CUA against Canberra Croatia, Sunday, July 31st, 5:10 p.m. at the Hawker Football Centre. Croatia have had both wins and by decent margins this season, but in the past, CUA have been a bogey side of Canberra Croatia. So that should be another interesting watch. And hello, everybody. Welcome to our CPL segment. Chris Webb has rejoined us after a while. Webby, glad to have you back. How's it going?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me back. It's good to be here. How you guys going?
Very good.
Doing good.
Well, all right, I don't think we touched on State League last time, so we'll start off with a quick State League update. I'm aware of one of the results on the weekend, Canberra, Juventus, and UC. Was it 3-3 or it was a draw? I might have got the score wrong there, but what's going on in that sector? Obviously, the reason why we mention is because there will be most likely promotion from that league of one team into the CPL for next season.
Yeah, look, it's always hard to piece together what's going on there with the current dribble situation. So we had the bye weekend across the city for Kangaroo Cup, I think 2 weekends ago. The only match that was played in the seniors was the State League 1 game, Juventus and Weston. So it was the top of the table clash. So I went out there and watched it. It was actually an extremely entertaining game, very high quality. Personally, I probably think Juventus shaded the game. They were probably slightly better, had some slightly better chances. Weston's keeper made some fantastic saves, but I'm pretty sure it finished 0-0. So just shows kind of how tight those two teams are. Weston won a pretty grueling match on the weekend. I think they won 3-2 against ADFA. They actually played across their State League 1 and State League 1 reserves with 18 players. So a lot of guys playing 180 minutes back to back. So they were actually very happy to get out of that with a win in first grade. So they got the 3 points. And as you said at the start, Juventus drops 2 points to UC. So I think that probably puts them pretty much level, but that's just kind of more my litmus guess at the moment. That I'm not 100% sure where that is, but I'm not sure if anyone is really 100% sure where it is. But I think I think Juventus were thereabouts 2 points ahead of Weston coming into this round. I'm sure they were ahead when they had the draw. I think Juventus were ahead, and they were kind of happy after the draw. And like I said, they're probably unhappy because I think that they deserved. Well, don't know if they deserved to win, but they were probably the better team. But at least it meant that they stayed on top. But I think now dropping those 2 points and Weston picking up the 3 probably puts them pretty much at level pegging, thereabouts. There's possibly a game or two that, one of them hasn't played catch-up games with an ADFA or the like.
Yeah, I did see Juventus coach Jono Zalanato joke about that on on Facebook saying, "Oh, it's on dribble. Who knows? Who knows who's winning due to that?" But very interesting stuff there. It looks like a very, very close league. So we'll keep you guys updated, of course, as Webby rejoins the show next. Let's kick off first though with a very, very big result for Wagga at home. 1-0 over the Brindabella Blues. Another win for them as they were able to overcome a very informed Brindabella Blues side in a pretty close matchup. Jacob Ocheng was able to convert from a penalty spot. That's his 5th goal of the season. This is also Wagga's 4th penalty in 2 games. But like I said last week, they were the ones that were able to put the pressure into attack and get themselves into a position, and they took advantage of most of those penalties, converted 3, and I believe the 4th they didn't convert from the spot kick, but they confirmed from the rebound from it. Once again, this victory means that Wanderers leap Brindabella Blues into the top 4 and put the 1 point ahead of them. They still remain behind ANU on goal difference, meaning they are in sort of that 4th spot or tied 3rd, however people want to classify it. But a very important result for them. Always a tough place to travel to Wagga. No exception for the Brindis in that regard. It was pretty hard fought from what I was told. This loss, like I said, for the Brindis means they're in 5th place now. That also means they'll knock down by 2 positions, though, from last week. This also means they are 1 point ahead of White Eagles, who are in 6th place, but they still have a game in hand against Tuggies. Just proves how competitive the CPL is at the moment, Webby, and every point and every goal matters. But once again, we've been saying this quite a bit about Wagga, not just recently. We've said it a decent amount over the season. Another very important and impressive win for them.
Yeah, look, massive win for them. And again, off the back of a massive win last week. And as we said, they've had, I think it's 2 wins over ANU, and they've really some quite impressive wins against the teams that are probably likely to finish in the top 4. So, they do make finals. They really should actually come in there with a lot of confidence that they can beat those teams around them, because they've done it during the season. Look, it's just a funny old season for Wagga. As those results that we talked about just then, but then they've actually, had some quite big losses. 4 or 5 goals. It's funny that they're sitting in the top 4 and their goal difference is -9. So it's just an interesting little season that they're either kind of picking up these pretty good wins against top teams, or they're just not coming to the races and getting beat convincingly. So you're never really sure, but we've talked about it. They've got the quality on the park, especially up front. They're quite combative in the midfield, but they do have goals. I think the interesting thing, and I haven't seen the team sheet, is after scoring from the spot kick 3 times, Waikazoa didn't take the spot kick in this match, and Jacob Ocheng did. But I guess probably because he missed the 3rd one last week and had to score off the rebound, that maybe that was enough to get him out of there. But I'm not sure if he just wasn't on the field, that was the reason. But I haven't seen that. But look, Brindabella, they've come into this with a lot of really strong form. They were into 3rd, a win there, and they really would have closed the gap on Queanbeyan and started pushing for that 2nd spot. So it's I think that they'll be reasonably upset. I think that they probably had a lot of confidence going into that game that they were going to pick up 3 points. So as you said, just shows how close this is. Nothing's guaranteed in this competition.
It certainly isn't. Michael, who do we have next?
Yeah, next up we have Western Molonglo, who played host to ANU FC, and it was ANU who came away with the away victory in this one, 2-1. The home side got a goal through Paget in the 89th minute, and for the visitors, it was Hines and Ellis getting on the score sheet there. ANU opened the scoring very early in this one, guys. It was in the 2nd minute, from Hines after some really nice sort of silky passing around the Western defenders, and then he buried it sort of along the ground into the bottom left corner. ANU's second came in the second half in the 70th minute. via a nice cross in the box, to an unmarked Ellis, who sort of cleanly struck a header across the goal past the keeper. And I think this is a big win for ANU, sort of as it leapfrogs them into third place on the CPL ladder, ahead of Wagga by goal difference and Brindabella by a single point. And they are also 5 points behind Queanbeyan now after their draw, which we'll get into in more detail next. Weston gave themselves, a good account though. The hope of a possible late comeback after scoring, 1 minute before, the 90th minute probably didn't help them. But it was a pretty a bit of a scramble for that goal that Weston got, but you'll take it any day of the week. And like I said, if it maybe had just come sort of like 5-10 minutes earlier, then it would have given them a good opportunity to, try and come back and at least get away with a draw after going 2-0 down. So, Webby, what are your thoughts on this result? Obviously, a big win for ANU, and a little bit of a case of Weston sort of grabbing that goal a little bit too late.
Yeah, look, I was at this game, and from the Western side of things, it was easily their best performance of the year. They actually played extremely well against an ANU team on a synthetic pitch. There's probably nothing worse in CPL than playing against that quality ANU on that pitch that they train on. Obviously not that exact pitch, but that type of pitch. And to concede 2 minutes into the game, and it was probably a pretty silly goal to concede. It was just about a defender not stepping out to the top of the box. They probably weren't just switched on 2 minutes in, or all of a sudden you're kind of thinking of the floodgates going to open again. But the rest of the game was extremely competitive. I'd say probably chances were close to even. Chris McEwen had quite a good chance in the first half that he probably didn't pull the trigger, and instead he cut back inside, and the covering defence from ANU did really well to close off the chance. In the second half, I think it was immediately after Isaac had scored, Michael Sellers essentially was an open goal, but it was a little bit of a scramble, and he had to throw a leg out just to get a toe on it, and it just went agonisingly wide. So there were chances there. They played well. ANU, look, they played well, and I think that they probably be disappointed that they didn't come away with a bigger win. But in the end, I think on the balance of the game, they were probably just happy that they got the 3 points, because I think across that game they realised they were in for it. They were actually in a real battle, a real match then, and it was just quite a classy goal, as you kind of described, Michael, that second goal to be the difference. For Western, look, some good signs in there. The positivity was really good. It's the first game since round one that they've had 11 fresh on-field players. So these are small things, but it showed. It showed all of a sudden what that actually means, and it just means that's the difference between being competitive and just not really having a chance in many of the games. So, look, the addition of Tom Paget for them up front, he's got a lot of NPL1 experience, a lot of CPL experience. He's an absolute handful. Most of the centre backs know him, and he's really going to just add that kind of element for Western and give them a focal point that they've probably been missing all season. So I really think that he's going to help them kind of get them through the rest of the season. And look, I think from now most of the teams are probably not going to take them as lightly as they probably would have for the remaining few games. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. Look, for ANU, they, as I said, that they did enough. They did a shift. I personally thought Liam Neeson who was playing right fullback for them, but had a very advanced right fullback. Actually had quite a good game, and was kind of a constant threat down that side. And look, it was they did enough, and as you said, their goal difference, it puts them into third spot. They're actually not that far off now from Queanbeyan. It's only 5 points, so really second spot is definitely not out of their reach at all. Look, I personally, if I was a betting man, I'd say top spot. I don't think they really can catch Tuggeranong with the amount of games that are left, but I think that they now can probably set their sights on second spot.
Most definitely a valiant effort from Weston, like you mentioned there, Chris. Matt, what's our next match?
Our next match is Queanbeyan City 2-2 against Yoogali. Ramos and Piccolo with the goals for Queanbeyan City. Armanini and Piva with the goals for Yoogali. Queanbeyan took the lead first through Ramos. After conceding through Armanini of Yoogali, Queanbeyan immediately took the lead again 2 minutes later through Michael Piccolo. When it seemed like the victory was looming for Queanbeyan, though, Yoogali struck back 3 minutes from time and through Piva, and this was, such a crucial goal for Queanbeyan to concede, especially considering last week they had gained 3 points on Tuggeranong and reduced the gap to 5 points. A win on the weekend would have reduced the gap to 2 points, and it would have put more pressure on Tuggeranong, who would have had a match in hand as they didn't play against White Eagles, but it would have put a little bit of pressure on them in that regard. Yoogali once again with another hard-fought result, and once again another impressive result away from home for them. They've had quite a few recently, Webby, picking up on their form that they had away from home at the start of the season. If you could touch on both, that'd be great, but of course have to start at Queanbeyan. It's a huge 2 points for them not to gain.
Yeah, massive. Look, could turn out to be costly. Could turn out to be the difference between the championship and promotion, those 2 points. So look, I saw them firsthand last week, and they were actually quite impressive. And it was the 2 goal scorers who, for me, were the instigators of most of the quality. Piccolo, just such an awesome pickup for a CPL team to pick him up from Deakin. It's huge. But Ramos was probably really their main danger man. He's a very top quality player. And those two kind of really ran the show last week, and I would have expected them to be able to kind of carry on and do things similar. Look, they both picked up goals, but you can't underestimate this Yoogali team, and just that fighting spirit, that will that those guys have. To be dedicated enough to playing this competition and travel so much, they are always going to be ready for a fight, and they're never going to, ever going to sit down. And they didn't. And you go, unless you've buried the game, you've always got to count them for having a chance of coming back into it. So 2-1, really, Queanbeyan should always have been expecting was never going to be enough, and that they had to put the game to bed, because those guys are always going to fight to the last second. And picking up that goal, look, it's crucial for them as well. It's crucial for Yoogali to stay in the hunt, because all of a sudden they would have been, 8 points behind that top 4 spot, and coming into just the last 7 matches, 8 points might have been kind of just a bridge too far to make up. But
I think it would have been 9 points.
Yeah. Oh well, even yeah. So just picking up those points, every point there is crucial, just to give them a chance, because if they let that slip away, then they just kind of end up in this no man's land for the last 4 or 5 games, where they probably are very unlikely of coming last, and then if top 4's out of their reach, then it makes things difficult. But I think picking up a point there, all they really need to do is kind of grab a couple of wins in the next 2 games, hope some people drop points, and then they're back in the mix. But that's just what they need to do. But obviously they keep fighting. They'll probably have a handful of home games in this last round. So anything can happen with those guys playing at home.
Certainly can. And White Eagles Tuggeranong postponed due to shortage of referees for this matchup. Did you want to touch shortly on White Eagles and Tuggeranong since you've last been on the show?
Look, well, I can't remember when the last time I was on. I've probably put the kiss of death on Tuggeranong a little bit.
Well, you did. You had a certain text, didn't you?
Well, I did, but I think I've come back since then. But look, I thought that they pretty much had it wrapped up. And to be honest, I still think now that those points dropped by Queanbeyan, it's still 4 points and the game in hand. That is going to be hard to kind of chase down with only 7 games to go, especially when you just think it's not 100% about Queanbeyan picking up points, but also they need Tuggeranong to drop points as well. But it's not a done deal. It's definitely not a done deal. 4 points can be picked up. That game in hand, it is against White Eagles. They are a very strong team. I would not be surprised if White Eagles, win that game. And then all of a sudden it's just 4 points. And that's where we kind of thought, well, those actual 2 points that they dropped becomes absolutely enormous. But look, it's still in Tuggeranong. Destiny is, Tuggeranong Destiny. It's a hashtag that they love. It's still in their hands, promotion. So they've just got to go out and get it done. Similarly, White Eagles, look, it's funny. They're sitting in 6th spot, but they win that game, they jump to 3rd. They win that game in hand. That's how close it is. And their goal difference is far superior to everybody else in and around them. So you almost think, well, that's really another point. That goal difference in case it ever comes close. So they're looking good. We kind of talk about the inconsistencies across all the teams. ANU have been very inconsistent, as we said. Wagga have been inconsistent. White Eagles are just the same. They're kind of the opposite to Wagga. They'll either lose a game by a goal or they win a game by 6 goals. But they just need to start picking up those consistent wins. And they'll be right. But again, it's really quite hard because everybody is so close, and the difference between the teams it's absolutely minimal. It's just a great competition.
It certainly is, and it's probably worth mentioning as well, the last Tuggeranong and White Eagles game that was on, I believe it was only a goal and a penalty that separated that matchup. It was a very close matchup for what I was told there. Michael, what are our matches this weekend?
Yeah, so for CPL round 15 fixtures, I'll run through them. First up, we've got Wagga City at home against Canberra White Eagles, Saturday, 30th of July at 2:15 p.m. They're at Gissing Oval, followed by Brindabella Blues up against Queanbeyan City, so this should be a good one. Saturday, 30th of July, 3 p.m. at Ipen Park there in Corwell. ANU will play host to Yoogali, Saturday, 30th of July, 3:15 at ANU South Oval. And lastly, we've got Tuggeranong United up against Weston Molonglo on Sunday, the 30th. Sunday the 31st of July, Canberra 2:01 there.
Yep, and Webby, thanks for joining us on the show today. Look forward to having you back soon. Any last words before we sign off for today?
No, nothing else. Again, thanks for having me on, and good luck to all the teams on the weekend.
It certainly will be another pivotal weekend, as it always is in CPL. Michael, any last words for today?
No, just looking forward to the action. Obviously, there's quite a few good games on across, NPL, NPLW, and CPL. So I'm sure we're going to come back on next week and have plenty to discuss. As there's still plenty of teams fighting for finals and whatnot. So going to be very entertaining, I feel.
It certainly will be. That was episode 61 of the Canberra Football Show. We'll see you next time.